You're on.
Today is September 21st, 2007. We're at the Mary L. Cook Public Library, Waynesville, Ohio. Today we are interviewing William Otis Donovan, and he would like to tell you about his service branch and time of service. If you would like to go ahead, Mr. Donovan, and just give us an overview of your time at the service.
Oh, okay. Well, I'd like to just talk about before I went into the service a little bit. I was a student at Miami University, and I was in the music school, and to become a band director with a major in trumpet. I was also working at Goodyear that summer, making fuel cells for airplanes, and I made enough money in that summer to pay for my next year at college. However, I knew I was going to be drafted, and so I was in November of 1942. I went to the service. I went through basic training and was urged to go to Infantry Officers Training School in Fort Benning, which I did, but I found that I just didn't have the physical development and stamina to do infantry officer work. I couldn't get over the damn big wall with my pack and rifle. And so I was shipped out, and it seemed that it was imperative to get me to England as fast as possible. And I found myself in a replacement depot there. We lined up on call at a train station, and the two guys I was with, we all looked at each other and decided we weren't going to do anything very physical because we were all not top line physiques. Well, one played sax, the other played trumpet, and I played trumpet. And we wound up in a band, a stage band in London, and were attached to a USO show. And we toured the British Isles. It took about 9 months to play all the bases and hospitals that were to be played. We went to Ireland, my homeland, which I was delighted to be there. And then the show broke up. I don't know for what reason. In the Army, you don't know reasons for things, you just do them. So I then got selected to stay in London and be part of the headquarters of the European Theater operation. It was interesting work. I was in the purchasing end, and I was in my element because I was purchasing music supplies for the Army. This was on reverse land-lease program, which British were providing us with material they had, and we were providing Britain with their material that we had and needed. So anyhow, I was happy working there until suddenly I was sent on temporary assignment to our depot in, I can't remember the name of the little town, but it was up near the coast. And we got there was an emergency, they needed help, but we were all got there too late to help. They had already done the task. But the lieutenant, seeing opportunity to increase his command and thereby maybe getting to be a captain, he retained us with assignments. I pulled the assignment of someone had taken the anticipated troop strength of the Army of Occupation, assuming they would play football, and divided the troop strength by 11 in order to set a goalpost for each 11 men in the Army of Occupation. This made a pile of posts. They were not assembled together, they were just loose posts. About 6 feet high and about 30 yards long. And the lieutenant, to give me a job, said, I want you to take this sledgehammer and make an alignment of the ends of the poles so it's nice and straight. So I got it on it and worked like the dickens, trying to get it completed so I could go back to London. It took about a week. And then he came out and inspected. He said, that's very fine, Sergeant. Good job. Now what about this other side? Well, if you don't know, there are two sizes. The middle crosspiece of the goalpost is shorter than the two that go in the ground. So he said, some of these are not the same, not matching it on the end. Well, immediately I saw that it was useless to try to do that side because the other side would then be out of line. And I, like Sisyphus, who rolled a rock up the hill to have it come tumbling back down, throughout eternity, I could see me pounding goalposts from side to side. So, fortunately, I had left my files in the fiscal section that nobody understood. It was sort of built-in security. And I was called back to London and I straightened the files out and was promoted to staff sergeant for my efforts. While there, they were dividing these tasks into as many minute details as they could to get men to fill them so that the colonel who wanted to become a general would have a larger command. And so we were busily doing this job, and the colonel was would have made a good, well, he did make a good general. He had all the attributes of a good general. His uniform was superbly fitted. His shoes were finest Italian leather, and he was aggressively brilliant. And so he became a general. We all went up in rank, and I was relatively happy. And I was going to go out for 11s, which is British for coffee at 11. And with another sergeant and I were going out to have a cup. And the word came down I was sent again on temporary duty to straighten out some things for the Signal Corps, which was behind in D-Day planning. Well, I regretted it, but what can you do? So I went to Cheltenham, England. We had a base outside of Cheltenham, and the Signal Corps was there, and I was busy posting shortages on the lines we were planning that would follow the invasion routes. And it was not bad work, but it wasn't London, you know. And so I met a friend of mine, Al Ludecki, who had played piano with us in our band, and he became a latrine orderly permanently. And he had been the organist for the cathedral in Trenton before he went into the army. But I guess that made him eminently qualified to do this task. He told me of an inspection that General Lee had. He was inspecting the base, and he came upon, as he came up to men, he would ask them what they had learned in the Army. And Al maintains when he came to him, he said, "Humility, sir." And I hope he said it. I hope he didn't make it up. He would have been capable of making it up, but I just pray that he truly said that. Well, the project came to an end, and we were going back to London. And when we got to London, the first buzz bombs were flying over. This was a terror weapon. It was inexact, and you never knew when it was going to run out of fuel, tip over, and explode. I saw one going up Oxford Street, and everyone was uttering sighs of relief as it passed over it and went. And I was in my office in London, and when they would come over, they made a god-awful racket. They were flying maybe 100 feet above us, and the civilian secretaries that we had would run to the window to see which way it was headed. They were worried about their homes, and it did instill terror in their hearts if it was going toward their house.
What is the size of a typical one?
Well, I had never saw one on the ground, of course. I would say maybe they were like a small Piper Cup plane, about that size, but they had a jet engine. And they traveled slowly, actually. They were being intercepted on the way over the channel, and the pilots had learned to line up beside them, engage their wing, and flip them, and they would circle right around and go back. I saw that in a newsreel. And anyhow, while we were in Cheltenham, going back there just a bit, I forgot a thing. We were standing early for a morning formation, and we were then the commanding officer got up and read a proclamation from General Eisenhower that D-Day was, that was D-Day. He needn't really have told us, because the flights of planes from horizon to horizon were going at wave after wave after wave. It's an awesome sight. The whole bottom half of Britain was an arsenal, and the bombs lined the roads, the unexploded bombs that we were going to use, because there was no place. They didn't want to stack them all together, but they were dispersed along the highways. Well, going back to London abruptly, we left London and went to Normandy about 30 days, it was 20 days after D-Day, 20 or 30 days, I don't recall. And we were setting up a depot for recreational supplies. And we had all sorts of equipment. And I remember the day I went down to get German prisoners to work for us. They were stacking crates. And this one German prisoner came up and he said, "Sergeant, what is baseball bats?" And I said, "Oh, it's a game. You have it on your shoulder, you hit the ball." He said, "You shipped that?" "Yeah." "Oh, we truly well lost the war." He said, "When you can ship baseball bats." And so it was true. We had one program there that was of lively interest to us. It was called Music for the Individual Man in the Foxhole. Well, this consisted of a little whistle-like instrument that was called a tonette. It's flutophone, based on the idea of a recorder. And no one wanted them. We had cases and cases of these things, and we had to move them. Well, we started a program. They all wanted recreational radios so they could get the Armed Forces Network. And so in order to get a radio, you had to take a case of tonettes. And we were moving them pretty well until one day a truck, an Army truck, 6x6, came roaring into our depot. It clawed the ground. Army trucks always clawed the ground. And this major swung down out of the truck. And he said to me, "Where is that son of a bitch that sent me these goddamn whistles up to our boys in the front?" I knew he didn't want to talk to me. So I said, "My major's down in the tent there, sir." And then I followed at a respectful distance because I didn't really want to miss what was going to happen. And he said, Major Belair came out and he said, he didn't seem to want to even meet my major. And he said, "If you ever send any more of those damned whistles up to my men, they went absolutely berserk. If you ever send any of them again, I shall come back and blow this place off the face of the earth. Do I make myself clear?" My major never answered. And he didn't wait for an answer. He went back to his truck, swung up into the cabin, yelled over his shoulder, "Dump those damn things." And they dumped all the tonettes. A big case, must have been 500 of them, came rattling to the ground. And they clawed their way out northeast to the front. We stood a long time and looked down at the pile. Sort of took on an aura of defeat. And we knew that music for the individual man in the foxhole was over. Well, then we were going to move forward. We're closing the depot, sending the stock ahead, and we were up into a 6x6. Now, to get into a 6x6, you have to walk backwards into it because there were 3 lines of just a place to sit down. And you had to walk backwards with your pack on your back, and each man spread his legs so, and you sat between the spreads, and you were packed in there solid.
Now, this is like a trailer?
Yes, like a semi. No, not really, not like a semi. But there was a truck.
An open?
an open well, it had a canopy over the top. When they went along, they, well, first, now a convoy of trucks don't just go. There have to be a lot of whistles blowing, a lot of cussing, a lot of hurry up, and a lot of sitting there waiting for them to go. Then, they don't claw the ground as much as they lurch. And they lurch and the whole lines of men go forward and back. And we were off, not knowing where we were going, but there were plenty of rumors. And they were going around. The dust was blowing in the back, which was usual. Everyone was lighting up cigarettes except me. And it was almost like preparing ham hocks and cabbage. It was so hot in there, and the smoke, well, anyhow, I was lucky to be one of the last ones in, because then I could see out the back. And we went through the little town of St. Lo, and it was utter desolation. I remember it, and I remember it in my prayers from time to time. Well, and so we continued on our way, and finally we saw, could it be? And it was Paris. Oh, rejoicing was heard throughout the land. As we were going up the Champs-Élysées, on a building that you could see, an ad man, an enterprising ad man got up there 3 days after the Germans had left Paris and posted a billboard that said, "Welcome to Paris, Yanks. Make your first suit on Hart, Schaffner, and Marx." Tremendous, tremendous. We spent the night on the floor of our offices, because billeting had not been arranged for yet. And we had slept nicely. But we learned the difference between France and England that night, because in the morning we heard a burst of giggles, and the girls came in with feather dusters to clean the offices. In England, we had middle-aged women who threw down a rug, knelt down and scrubbed the floor. Oh, it was a lovely sight. So, my job resumed. I was waiting for an officer, because we were one officer short, which wasn't too bad. And I set up the place. I was now a tech sergeant, one more to go to be a master sergeant. And things were going pretty well, and we got an officer who was interested in becoming a captain. And in headquarters, there's a game sort of like chess to get promotion. And this is the prime interest of the group. Okay. And so he came in. He had an office by himself. We had a large office in the Shell Oil building. And he decided he did not want to go out and do the actual purchasing. And so he assigned that to me. He signed the vouchers. I took a handful of vouchers and went down. We had a Jeep and a driver. Now, Robert, my driver, is a French civilian, of course, and had been a cab driver in Paris and, before the war and during the war. So I had but to give him an address, and we would be there. converse very much. He didn't speak English. My French was limited to functions. And anyhow, we went this one day, we went to our magic supplier. We were setting up shows to tour hospitals and bases. And we were interested in having more magicians because they went over well, particularly in hospitals. And I went out to this supplier, and he was in the Beaumont area, and to get in, a number of bolts had to be unbolted on the inside. And then he would peek around the corner and say, "Hello." And I said, "Hello, come in." And so I went in a big room, people practicing tricks all around the room. Vases of flowers that turned into something or other. And the smoke gimmick was very popular. Now this was a device something like an egg that you screwed apart. You put a cigarette in there, a lit cigarette, and then you put the whole thing in your mouth. So you're smoking a cigarette in the mouth. You come on the stage, and you light up a cigarette, and they're puffing out, and you put the cigarette out, and you continue to blow smoke rings for as long as that cigarette lasted, if you wanted to. And sometime or another, you had to use a sleight of hand and get it out, and put it in a glass of water. An opaque glass. And it was a very effective trick, particularly if you could continue to talk, which was hard, because your tongue being held down. But you get a nasal tone, you could continue to talk. Well, anyhow, we signed a contract that he was going to train magicians for us. And, well, that was a big cake right there. And the days were filled with finding pheasant feathers. This is the Army show came to town. And we had to re-outfit these guys. Their costumes were bad right at this time. And so we took on the task of getting dressmakers. They had female impersonators, these guys. And so we got that done, but they needed ostrich plumes, and they were in short supply, and pheasant feathers. And so I did some scouting around and found that a place where I could get them. And I turned in my vouchers at the end of the day to our bank, the Armed Forces Bank, and they always waited for me because they wanted to see what fool thing was bought today, and they would laugh. And anyhow, I had seen this as the Army show in London, and Irving Berlin came with them that time. And he had just written a new song called My British Buddy. I never forget it. I often try to, but I remember it. In his broken old voice, he got up at the Palladium Theatre in London and sang, "My British body, we're as different as can be. I like my coffee and rolls, and he likes his tea. But we're in there pitching till we get the victory. When the war is done and the battle's won, we'll be clasping hands across the sea." There was moderate applause, because no one really knew who Irving Berlin was, and he was dressed in a World War I uniform.
Not one of the kids.
No, he was old at that time. I can't remember his age, but if he was over 30, he was old to us. Well, anyhow, things went along, and I don't know what more I could say about that, except we had a big gym shoe caper that we had gymnasiums around Paris that were permitting guys to use, and they had to have shoes. So we converted our sizes to centimeters and stocked up on tennis shoes for the boys to have fun in the gym. I never thought of having fun in a gym, but some people do. Then I guess I'm going to skip to when the war was coming to close. As a matter of fact, it did come to a close, and we were wondering what would become of us. We were hoping to go home quickly, and there was a program. The way of selection was the amount of time that you had spent overseas, and you got points, 5 points for every decoration. I thought and thought how I could get a decoration, but I had a good conduct medal, which was 5 points. That I got for being good for a year. The ETO medal, the European Theater of Operations medal, was worth 5 points, but everyone got that. Almost everyone got the good conduct medal too. So I was puzzling about this. I was trying to get an advantage. And lo and behold, Director of Personnel called me and said, "Sergeant, I have these medals to give out. Now, would you rather have a British soldier's medal or a Croix de Guerre?" And I looked at them, and there was no doubt. The Croix de Guerre was beautiful. And so I got it. I didn't get it presented to me. I just had it. And it was sort of had it on an IOU because it wasn't delivered until I got home, and I was teaching in Oak Hill, Ohio. And I thought maybe the mailman would kiss me on both cheeks, but he didn't.
How many points was it worth?
5.
5?
Yeah. So that gave me a little leg up, and finally the day came, and I got in the truck to go to Marseille, France. And it just sat there. There were no whistles. There were no screaming commands. No one trying to hurry us because we were plenty motivated to go. And then we sat there. The Army hadn't changed that much. We sat and we sat, and guys were saying, "Why in the hell don't we move?" And other things. Well, finally, we couldn't believe it, but the truck moved slowly and softly away. And someone said, "Those dumb bastards finally discovered the clutch." Beautiful. So we were on our way to Marseille. About 2 hours out, we stopped. The convoy stopped. The whistles blew and we were offloading, each man checking the direction of the wind. And we lined up beside the road, 200 men, with a final unison piss. And each one looked at the other, and relief spread across our faces. And as we backed into the truck again, we waited in Marseille for the wind to change. The harbor was shallow and couldn't accommodate our ship if the wind was blowing off land. And we were praying for the wind to shift. It was cold, it was November. And Thanksgiving was coming and we had a turkey and we ate it, but would rather be moving. Every day we had to take a shower in open air in the field, shower with ice on the floor. And the only safe place was where the hot water was coming down. Because we were going to be 10 days without a bath when we got on the ship. Because you can't use that much fresh water from bathing down a cargo like that. And the day came, we got on the victory ship, beautiful sailing on the Mediterranean, hit the Atlantic, and I was sick for 8 days. Everyone was sick. The bunks and the hold were about 15 high, and I was on the bottom, and the puke was passing by. The place was awash, and we finally got into New York Harbor. Past the docks, came up, I don't know where someone docked. Could hardly walk. But it was joyful, and we were so glad to be home. I had a good re-entry into civilian life because I could continue my plan. And I went home and back to school at Miami University, Oxford, Ohio. And in Cincinnati, there dwelled a maid. Was on a train, and I got out at Whitney Place Stadium. She ran into my arms and knocked my bag out of my hand and went under the train. But it was a joyful reunion. I fished it out. Under the train, we got in the car. And I have lived well ever since. And at 86, we had been married for 61 years. And a joyous time was had.
And how many children?
We had 3 children, David, Dan, and Kathy. Kathy was killed on the Ohio University campus in a windstorm. She blew over when she was 19. But David is doing well, and Dan is in music. Dan is a graphic artist, has his business in St. Paul, Minnesota.
And you spent most of your years in Lebanon, Ohio.
Yes, I did. We are cleaning a house. We cleaned the garage this summer. There's an accumulation of 52 years to cope with. is amazing what we save as people. For instance, there's a pile of Girl Scout material that someone I'm married to hangs on to. I, on the other hand, save only important things.
Like your medals.
And my trucks.
You did say that you were able to take advantage of the GI Bill to finish your master's.
Oh, yes, at Columbia University.
And have you been able to keep any friendships up from your time in the service?
And what?
Any friendships from people that you were with in the service? Did you keep those up afterwards?
No. I have no idea where those people are. Phil Cacavelli was going to try to get a job driving a subway train. And Al Little I saw one time at Juilliard when he was, when we were studying there. And it was a brief encounter. He was playing organ.
Were there many people that you knew personally from your community that served? I'm sure there were.
Yeah.
Personal close friends?
That what?
Personal close friends that served in the military? Did you serve with anyone from your
Oh,
community?
no.
Okay. How about, well, you've told us a lot of very interesting stories about your time there. What do you feel your impression was of your time in the service? Or how does that color your view of military service?
Well, war is a terrible thing because it wastes everything it touches. It wastes people, it wastes materials. And whereas I was not an active combat person, I had no choice in that. I was told to do what I did. I think that even there, it wasted 3 years of my life by having to do things that the military said. I have no quarrel with the military. It operates the way it has to. The quarrel I have is with the people who, and it's not so prevalent now, but they were regretting the atom bomb and demonstrating about it. Well, when I first heard of it, I was leaving a mess hall in Paris. It was a restaurant that we had taken over. And guys were looking at the Paris Times, which was an English publication, and they was, what is this? And I said, oh, well, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. We've got a weapon here that we can win hands down and not endanger ourselves. I rejoiced because war is, if the person, the side that can kill enough and destroy enough so that it's unacceptable to the enemy to have any more destruction, wins. And that's just the way war is. And you're no more deader after, if that's a word, an atomic attack than you would be in conventional attack. So anyhow, when those people try to lay a guilt trip on my generation, I just don't take kindly to that. Damn it, it was a war. And these people don't know what a war was. And exercised, or what had to be done.
Did you have other siblings who were in the service?
I chose to be an only child.
Did you keep a diary or a journal while you were there?
No,
Okay.
no. I have a journal in my head.
Is there anything else that we haven't covered during the interview that you would like to bring up?
I don't think so, pertaining to that.
And so, you came back, you were an educator, you retired as an educator.
I prefer to call myself a teacher or a band director.
Okay.
An educator is, well, it's okay, but I'm not that high food.
All right, and then you, the lady that you married, whom we're going to interview, also had military service, but then you did not marry until that was completed. Both of you were out of the service, correct?
That's correct, yes.
All
We
right.
didn't marry beforehand because, well, I didn't, it was unpredictable what was going to happen. And I think we did the right thing. It was very tempting to do it, to be married beforehand. But it just didn't seem responsible to me and Margie at the time.
All right, if you have no further comments that you'd like, then we'll conclude today. This is interviewer named Kathy Colvin from Mary L. Cook Public Library, Waynesville, Ohio. Thank you, Mr. Donovan.
Thank you, Kathy.
All right.